What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm gonna be talking about how you can have the confidence of a top 1% closer. And the reason why this topic is so important, why I find myself talking to my team about it all the time, is because at the end of the day, sales is a transference of belief. And if you have no belief to transfer onto the prospect, you're not going to succeed, full stop. On the flip side, I've seen reps that have tons of flaws, make plenty of mistakes, get away with it, and end up making the most money on the team, even versus way more experienced, more fundamentally sound reps, because they truly believe in what they sell. And that confidence, it doesn't come from the hot girlfriend or the nice watch or the nice car. It comes from something very different. And if you guys are new here, my name is Dan Crowley. I'm one of the co-founders and head of sales at Ascension and ListKit, where we're pulling in over $1 million per month. I've taken thousands of sales calls, built killer sales team. And as someone who believes in what they sell, I've seen firsthand how that confidence translates directly to collecting millions of dollars from a laptop. So let's get into it. The first thing that helps me think about this in the right frame is by realizing that the best salespeople aren't salespeople at all. For maximum performance, when it comes to confidence, you should actually think of yourself as a mix between a preacher and a trial lawyer. And it's gonna sound a little bit funny. And when I'm talking about preachers, first off, I'm a man of God. I'm a Catholic personally. Christ is king. If you're a godly person, I respect you. I'm not trying to dog preachers right here. I am talking more specifically about the preachers that Drewski just parodied in his most recent video, the Southern Christian mega church, the ones where if they're trying to get you to commit money, they're talking about, what are you going to let guide you? Are you going to let earthly desires guide you? Or are you going to let God guide you? Because nobody's going to guide you like God, not to eternal life. I'm talking about that, the ones who get fired up. So let's start with them specifically. These guys are great because they start with the why. The bigger the why, the easier the how. That's something that a sales coach most recently told me, and it really stuck with me because it's so true. If I'm trying to get you to do something, well, if it's to save your life, you're going to do whatever I tell you. The how doesn't really matter. But if it's something that could solve a minor inconvenience, however you tell me to do it, it has to be a lesser convenience than that is to me. Preachers also reframe identity. You're not a loser. You're not broken, not in the eyes of the Lord. They move people emotionally. They sell a future state. They're comfortable asking for a commitment. They're not apologetic about the ask. They're comfortable in silence after the ask. They end with a clear next step. Does that sound familiar? There's all these parallels to high ticket sales. Now, the important thing here, when a preacher starts preaching, are they holding back? Absolutely not. They're going for it. And once again, it's not the confidence that's derived from the hot girlfriend, the nice car, the nice watch. The confidence comes from the fact that they are so confident about the solution. If the confidence is about yourself, then based on how you're feeling, if you're not feeling super confident, let's say you hit a rough patch in your life where the girlfriend dumps you, or let's say you're overweight right now, there's a lot of things like that can go up and down and up and down and up and down. But if you are confident about what you are selling, that is where the confidence derives from. That can actually be consistent. But going back to this, when it's time to pitch. Like I said, when a preacher's preaching, they're not holding anything back. Half measures do not work when selling. If you've done discovery right, know you can help the person, and they're now aware that they need your help, which people wouldn't book a call if they didn't need help. That's one of the universal truths of sales. People want to be pitched by somebody who is fired up by their solution. They don't want someone who acts like what they do isn't consequential and using a bunch of softening language. Like they don't really want that. If you guys have ever gone to purchase something of importance, which that's your job, making your thing something of importance to them that can solve a real problem, you don't really want the person who's just like, let's say you're super fired up about buying your first watch. Yeah, this Rolex is all right. Like it's a starter Rolex, like whatever. If you want it, cool. Like, no. You want somebody who's excited about it, who's nerding out about this stuff with you, who's super confident. Like, hey, this is the best starter watch that you could possibly get. This is the first one I got. Now this is my collection, right? Like you want somebody who's fired up in that way. The only time people don't like when people turn that on is if you didn't do discovery right and they're not actually aware that they need your thing. Now, conviction is a visceral feeling, right? It's something you can feel. It's a must have, not a nice to have in sales. And this is something that, like I said, the prospects feels, and it's not really about what you're saying. It's about how you're saying it, how you're speaking about your solution. If you don't have this, prospects aren't dumb. They're going to smell the bullshit from a mile away. And even if everything logically checks out, they will not buy, because even if their head was telling them to do it, their gut is telling them not to. And people think with their head and their gut and their heart. There's a few things going on here. Even the most logical of prospects will act emotionally. So ideally, you're selling something you truly believe in. If not, I believe you should ethically brainwash yourself. The reason why I said ethically is because if you're really selling something that's dog shit, just get out of it, right? But let's say you're selling something in a commoditized industry and you do believe in your team that they do good work. Cool. Like you can brainwash yourself to think you are the best blank in town, the best coaching program in town, the best SEO agency in town, the best enterprise software in town. Look at actors. Right? They start by making themselves believe. That's what you need to do. If a posh actor from London can make you believe that they're a drug dealer from Los Angeles, it's possible for you too. Shout out Damson Idris from Snowfall, by the way. Great show. You can make yourself and others believe you're the best SEO agency in town, or whatever that thing is for you. Now, when you do have conviction, literally everything's going to get easier. Going back to the rep that is able to get over all these shortcomings. And there's a reason why preachers can speak like their teachings are life and death. It's because to them, it is, right? It's the most important job in the world in their eyes, in my eyes as well, but Even if it's not the most important job in the world, like you should be speaking about these things like they have weight, like they have importance. And if you have that conviction of what you're selling and truly believe that you can help the prospect you're speaking to, you're not going to all of a sudden come off as incongruent or awkward or random when you're pushing them at the end of the call. If you've been speaking about that solution, about their problems, like they do matter, like your solution can help them, then when you're pushing them, it's not gonna be like, whoa, all of a sudden, like this guy asked for money and now he's just a completely different person. That will turn people off. Now, in sales, there are going to be situations where you need to turn down the temperature in the room, where you need to depressurize things. You need to lower the sales resistance, but you're still going to need to push them at some point. And if they need to be pushed to accomplish the things they've never been able to accomplish on their own, you should push. It's for their own good. And you can say those things and truly believe those things and come off, once again, as congruent with the rest of your pitch and the rest of your process if you truly believe in what you're selling. Now, the second part, like a trial lawyer, you need to present evidence, right, to back up your case here. If it's clear they should close beyond a reasonable doubt, they will, at a high percentage at least. Now, if a preacher appeals to the emotional side of prospects, a trial lawyer would appear more to the logical side. And they do discovery, trial lawyers, and that discovery, especially in B2B sales, it's a lot like what we do, right? You're going over all the facts, you're essentially auditing their situation and figuring out and asking questions to understand what facts you're going to use to build your case. The reason they're doing all this is so that by the time they make their closing argument, they can speak with conviction and ask for a decision. And the goal here is just to leave as little room for doubt as possible when they do. Yes, you're still going to have to handle objections, but life is a whole lot easier if you try to avoid them altogether. And you could do that if you have the right evidence that you've gathered in discovery and you build a real compelling case and you also speak with that conviction, that emotion that a preacher has. Now, do you think a lawyer speaks lightly when they're defending a client if they believe that client is innocent, or when they're trying to put away a murder? No. And even if they did think their client was on the right side or wasn't on the right side, do you think you could tell with the good ones? Probably not. And that's probably where the brainwashing comes in. I don't know if that type of brainwashing is as ethical, but I know I've talked a lot about this high level. If I was to put this in a checklist, the 1% closer confidence checklist, as I called it here, this is what it would look like. First point, I enter every call with conviction already installed. So before the call, I can clearly articulate why my solution actually matters, who it is life-changing for, why not taking action keeps prospects stuck. And if I don't genuinely believe this, I'm deliberately installing that belief. You can call it that, you can call it brainwash, whatever you want, through proof, through success stories, through self-talk, whatever you need, so that by the time the call starts, the confidence is already there. You're not just being like, well, I hope this is a good conversation and let's see how it goes today and how I'm feeling. No, you just need to get rid of all that, right? It doesn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with your solution that you're selling. Then, second point, you're going to start with the why, not the how. So early in the call, if I need to, I'm going to reframe their identity or their situation so that changing their situation is a need to have, not a nice to have. I'm also going to paint a clear future state that they want, that's important for them to get to. And I'm going to tie their problem to something meaningful, whether that's more money, more time, more status, more freedom, less stress, whatever that may be. And I'm not explaining any features yet, right? I'm not getting into the pitch yet because then prospects are just going to be like, well, how much does it cost? And what do you guys do for this? What do you guys do for that? I'm talking about them specifically. I want to figure out what is their main motivator. And this works really well in B2C. It also works well in B2B. Like if you're talking to a director of sales and they have a certain quota and they're confident that they're going to hit this quota, regardless if they work for you or not, you're going to have to find a different why. You're going to have to find something in there so that making that decision and the potential outcome from working with you, if they do make that decision, feels important. Once again, going into this, big why, easy hop. Now, third point, I run discovery like a trial lawyer building a case. During discovery, I audit their current situation, right? I'm getting a good understanding of how this whole system works. I'm going to expose gaps, constraints, consequences. I'm going to ask questions that remove ambiguity, right? It's very difficult to point a straight line from point A to point B if you don't really know what point A is and you don't really know what B is, right? So whenever somebody tells you they're making 10 to 15K a month, okay, how much did you make in the last 30 days specifically? Okay, well, I made 11. Okay, and is that gross or net? That's net. Okay, like now we can kind of understand where they're at. And if somebody's like, well, I want to do this because I hate my job. Hey, what do you mean by that? Well, I just don't really like it. I've been doing it for 3 years and I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, but you've been doing it for 3 years. I guess why now for the change? Well, you know, I was working up the corporate ladder and now I've gotten to the point where I've got this one promotion, but the next step up on that corporate ladder is like another 5-10 years. And I just don't want to do that. I can't do that. Okay, why can't you? Well, right now I'm only making $120,000 a year and I want to have kids. Or right now, at this point, I hate the company that I'm working at. I don't know if I can work another day. Like whatever that is, like get real specific, remove that ambiguity, because if people say things that can mean 100 different things to 100 people, you can't just assume the importance of this specific person about that specific term. Now, by the end of discovery, the problem should be undeniable. The cost of inaction should be clear because your biggest competitor, and I've said this in a previous video, is inaction. If you're selling agency services, it's not another agency. If you're selling coaching services, not another coaching program. If you're selling software, it's not another software that's out there. It's this prospect doing nothing at all. Trust me, I've seen time and time again. Yes, there will be a certain percentage of people that go with a different provider, but the vast majority of people are just comfortable enough in their current situation to the point where they just don't take any action at all. And most of the time, we know that is not best for the prospect. And that's why it is ethical to push. But anyways, by the end of discovery, I also know where the solution fits logically. I'm collecting evidence. I'm not just getting information that's inconsequential. Right. So fourth point, when it's time to pitch, I actually pitch. Once discovery confirms it, I stop with my softening language. And this is something I've had to weed out of my vocabulary, something I'm actively working on. Just like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, or just anything like that, like, hey, I think this, could be a really good idea for you, or hey, just anything like that's like softening or apologetic in any way, just get rid of it. I speak with energy and certainty. When it comes to certainty, if you can speak in terms that are certain and exact and ideally pretty brief, that's always going to be better by rambling on and on and on. Right? Like people can feel that when they're being sold something, and it feels like you almost have to make up selling points on the fly. It just becomes, whenever somebody's over explaining, less authentic in a way as to like the true reason, where if it's like, here it is, and you're very matter of fact with it, great. And I sell that future state that they can't get to with conviction, right? So once again, I do not apologize for closing or pushing or downplaying the importance of the decision. I don't pitch like it's optional or inconsequential, because once again, half measures kill trust, conviction builds it. Then last point, I ask for commitment and I stay in the pocket. So at the close, I'm going to ask directly for the decision. After that, I'm gonna shut the hell up. I need to be comfortable in silence for a moment. Now, I'm not the type of closer, I'm not the type of sales coach that I'd recommend you say the price and you don't speak again until the prospect speaks. I don't think that's a good hard and fast rule, because if you're too comfortable in silence, they're just gonna be like, okay, cool. Can you send this over in an email? Like they're just not gonna know what to do at this point. They're going to naturally feel awkward. Like you need to realize you're still having a human conversation at the end of the day. So typically I'll ask, shut up for a moment, and then I'll continue on. Right. Then I'll continue with, hey, is that something that's aligned with what you guys are looking to invest in X to get Y? Right. If I need to keep the conversation going, I'm the leader here. I need to keep it progressing. If you're too comfortable in silence, like more than a few seconds, you should speak. Now, the next thing that comes out of my mouth when I do speak, it needs to be cool, calm, and collected in terms of your tonality, but it should be direct. Once again, shouldn't be like, well, how do you think you're feeling about that? I think that's garbage. Now, if they're hesitating, if they're not pulling the trigger right away, I'm going to push appropriately, because growth requires pressure and uncomfortable conversations. Think about that in your own life. Think about that in any realm of life. Growth is going to be coming from a situation where you were up against pressure and you had an uncomfortable conversation with your buddy, your priest, your mother, or yourself. Like this is good stuff. You guys as closers are paid to have uncomfortable conversations. If you are not comfortable with that, you probably don't really believe in what you're selling, or you just don't understand sales really. And I don't confuse this discomfort with negativity. So as soon as we have to have that uncomfortable conversation, once again, like this is the job. If I mentally bucket that with like, oh, now the conversation's going poorly, it's a flawed understanding, and it may come from the fact that you don't truly believe in what you're selling. Now, I remember as well in the back of my head that if this person rather could fix this on their own, they already would have. There's a reason why they're on this call today. There's a reason why they need somebody to help them out with this issue, whether it's weight loss, whether it's lead generation, whether it's content creation, right? They need something to push them. They need somebody to push them. You can be that person in their life that serves that positive service for them. I don't know if that made sense, honestly, but pushing is ethical when belief and evidence are present was the whole point of this. Now, quick pause in the action. If you're a business doing a minimum of $30,000 a month and you're looking to get leads, plus the sales team required to hit multiple six figures a month, check out our program, Olympia. Nothing is guaranteed here, guys, but I can confidently say that if you're looking for help with ads, team building, in-person events, and you're ready to grow aggressively, this is what we specialize in. This is what we do every single day. Click the link below to learn more about Olympia. All right, let's get into my last point here. Now, if you feel like you're 10 out of 10 confident, but your prospect just isn't getting it, then you need to reframe. Now, when I say your prospect isn't getting it, they're just not seeing the situation as super consequential to them. They don't really give a fuck. Or when you're kind of turning it on, they're looking at you like you have 3 or 4 heads, right? So if you run the checklist above correctly, the close should feel inevitable. It shouldn't feel forced. Objections are weaker. Confidence feels felt, not performative. Still, many prospects won't have the urgency or see the importance of the conversation the way that you want them to. So how do you actually reframe them? You need to reframe their identity and how they make decisions, right? Their decisions up to this point have likely led them to be where they are today. Frustrated, broke, jaded, tired, whatever it may be in that situation, right? Whatever pain is present there is always going to be some. You need to find that, right? At the same time, people in their situation have been able to use your solution to get to their desired future state if you actually do good work. So it's not just about bringing all this stuff up and be like, well, is that how you always made decisions? And look at you now, broke as shit. right? It's not about doing that, just making the prospect feel like shit. It's about being real with them about what the situation currently is, where they do need help. But then sometimes you need to be able to build this person up so they do realize it is possible. Like even if they say these goals and they don't really believe them at the start, you should let them know it is your duty to let them know that people in their same situation have been able to use your solution to get to that place that they're looking to go. So many people have come through Client Ascension wanting to get out of a 9-to-5 job that they hate, and they've successfully done that. Or so many guys who are like basically glorified freelancers making 5, 8, 10K a month, or just super tired. They're like, I don't even want to scale this thing because every single client I take on is 20 hours of work. I've been able to use our system so they can sign 10, 15 clients because they're actually able to build a team. They're able to use AI to automate a whole lot. And now they're doing 6 figures a month. Like I've seen that firsthand. So that's why I talk about it with this conviction. Now, to make the decision to get them to their goals, they're most likely going to need to make decisions the same way that future version of themselves in that dream state would make a decision, right? So if I can question their decision-making pattern up to this point and how whatever they've done up to this point has led them to where they're at, but then associate them with that higher version of themselves, that dream state version of themselves that hasn't been burned by this agency and hasn't been burned with the coaching program. When they're looking at a decision like this, where they are confident there's ROI, they are confident it will work for them, what do they do in that situation? That version of themselves that's already at 50K a month. Well, yeah, Dan, I'd pull the trigger on it at that point. Or like, if I'm looking at a coaching program specifically, hey, that version of yourself who is a legitimate business owner at this point, when he sees a program that has every single tool that other people have used in the same situation to get his type of results, does he look at this thinking, I don't know if this is going to work? Or does he look at this saying, I'm going to make this work? Yeah, Dan, you'd probably make the decision looking at this like, I'm going to make this work. Okay. What version of yourself you want to be today? Boom. Right there. Sometimes that is needed. Now, another thing you got to do in terms of reframing, you need to reframe your solution to their problems as a necessity, not a luxury. Luxuries people buy when things are nice, when it's like shit, kind of on a roll now. Life feels pretty good. Problem with sales is a lot of times when people are needing help, they're not in one of those situations, right? They're pretty pissed and frustrated. They're like, shit, I got to spend this much more on marketing. Every last, $20,000 that I've spent on marketing hasn't worked, right? So if they're just looking at this as something that would be great if they had more money, they're not going to do it. If it's something where they're like, okay, I need to fix this now, it is critical to the business, you got to ask those questions and discover. You got to help them see that. Why are they looking to fix this? Why haven't they been able to do this on their own? What happens if things continue on as is? How would that impact them if things continue on as is? What if they get to their goals? What then? How's that impacting them? And is reaching their goals something they're actually serious about? Once again, if I'm speaking about this with some weight to it, I'm probably going to get a better response. Where if I'm just asking it like a jackass, high ticket sales guy who's just asking it like the most salesy way, that's when you get the eye rolls like, oh yeah, all these sales guys are the same. So whatever, right? Reframe pressure. Somebody's like, well, I feel like you're pressuring me. I feel like you're pushing them. Yes, I am. But the only reason I am is because I know who we help well and you fit that exact persona. And I've seen what that's been able to do for people like you in your situation who have a skill, that do good work, that don't know how to build the business around it, that can actually monetize that skill to its fullest potential, right? And when the pressure builds and people don't buy in the call, they typically ghost. We all know this. That's also kind of just truth, right? They feel like they just escaped like a super high intensity situation and their brain was like, whoa, that was a lot. I just need to stay out of whatever that was because it was really uncomfortable with me. So in other words, you've seen that go well when the person steps up and becomes that person who can make a good decision, and you've seen it go poorly. So let them know that, right? Let them know that you've seen this go well and you've seen this go poorly, so that they know this pushing is for their own good. Hey man, my biggest fear here, because obviously I've been in this situation quite a few times and I've seen it go really well and I've seen it go really poorly. Now, when it goes really well is when somebody understands everything that we're doing here, it logically checks all the boxes for them. So they're able to jump in and they're excited to take action and they act quickly. That's what growth requires. Just acting quickly. Now, I've seen this go really poorly where people, because it felt like too big of a moment for them, they decide not to do it. They don't fix these issues because they haven't gotten the help that they've needed. And then they come back 6 months later in the same exact situation, only their problems that they came to us on the call about 6 months down the road have only continued to dwindle their bank account to the point where now they can't afford it. Or they're asking for some discount that we have. And odds are 6 months from now, the price is going to be higher. That's typically just how we roll, right? Like I'm happy letting them know that. So they know that this pushing, it's not just to get my check, right? It's for their own good. Now, last thing here that I love, and this is something you'll see time and time again if you watch a lot of sales content, is analogies, analogies, analogies. Now, that's the reason why analogies are so powerful is because if they're still not getting it, they just may not be capable of seeing the situation the same way that you see it. It's almost like you guys are speaking two different languages. And if that's the case, like we still want to help this person, you need to speak their language. And that's why all of the best sales guys that you see online are constantly using analogies. It's just, obviously we're all speaking English here or Spanish, whatever. Like you're conversing in the same language, but sometimes you need to speak a more universal language. Like if somebody was speaking to me about, I don't know, super complicated tax strategies, and I just don't understand it. I'm like, dude, like, yeah, we're speaking English, but I just don't get it, right? So you need to speak their universal language. And you can use an analogy for pretty much every situation. So don't overcomplicate it or feel like it needs to be rehearsed, because honestly, being super smooth in sales is entirely overrated. In my opinion, if it all sounds super smooth, you're like, ooh, like that just flowed out right away as soon as you stop talking. Like I hit him with a smooth analogy. Usually people are going to be like, oh, this kind of just rehearsed. So a lot of times it can come from just like leaning back, looking around. Like you don't need to be smooth. Trust me. But if you guys really needed to, if you couldn't come up with on the spot, feel free to use AI to help you generate ideas, right? Like you have endless information and different things to go off of. If you're explaining a situation that you run into, ask ChatGPT, it'll come up with 15 good analogies, right? I could come up with 100 good analogies. If somebody had a bad experience with a competitor and now they're like, oh, I just don't know if I want to work with a cold email agency again, right? I'm like, well, you probably had a bad date, right? Oh yeah, no, I've had a few. Okay. Did you stop going on dates? No. Why not? Right. Or if somebody's like, yeah, this is exactly what I need, but I need to go talk to, 15 different people and they don't even have those people yet. They're just like, I just need to go look and see what else is out there. You can push them. And if it gets to a point where they're just not moving, you can be like, is it safe to say there's something here that you're not looking for? What makes you say that, Dan? Well, I mean, when you find your wife, you're not just going swiping on Tinder. And you could chuckle about it, right? You can bring some levity to the situation, but just making a different comparison can help them see it that way, right? I've talked to a lot of people who have gotten leads historically just through inbound or referral, and they'll say it like a badge of honor. But you start to dig in more and more, and it's like, yeah, it's kept them afloat, but the revenue hasn't grown in 12 months. And if you're not growing, you're dying. You're shrinking. So I can make an analogy and say, hey, I've spoken to a lot of people, and when things are great through referrals, they're great because you're not spending anything to acquire them. But the main thing I hear from people is unpredictable. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. Sometimes we'll get 4 referrals in a month, Dan. Sometimes we'll get 2. Got it. And up to this point, do you feel like the unpredictability that's led to the plateau that you guys have seen here? Yeah, I would say so. Okay, cool. Well, the thing here and I want to make sure that we're seeing it the same way, it's a lot like driving a car with no oil. Like, yeah, the car will keep running for some time, but it's not just that it's going to run out at some point. It's going to destroy the engine, because up to this point, it's been at a plateau. If we go down and then it stops once again, it just doesn't come to a halt and just the car nicely stops. The car is ruined because at this point, the engine's fucked. And what I'm trying to compare this to is if you get to that point where the referrals aren't there and now we take a downturn, the reason why you have no engine, the reason why you can't start the car up ever again is because you have no predictable way to get leads. So I don't know if it'd be a positive in this situation, the fact that you guys have been able to survive off referrals for this long. Because what happens if that stops? And even if it doesn't, are you guys comfortable staying where you're at, right? It's like you just pull up these random analogies, right? And you can just help them see a little bit more. Once again, this is if everything else is there, but they're just still not getting it exactly. So if you're still watching at this point and you're looking to build out a sales team, go ahead and grab my free guide in the description on how to hire A+ closers. Sure, you'll get some value out of that. And I'm confident you got some value out of this one. So if you want to watch a full free course, 100% free. Look at that. That can be your ultimate sales guide for 2026. Stick around for my next one. Links on the screen now. Let's keep crushing it, guys. Peace.